Marvel movies. You know them. You've probably seen at least one of them. Hopefully it wasn't one of the ones before they started making good ones. But look, like all movies, a bunch of stuff doesn't always make the final cut. And that's what we're looking at today. Scenes that were deemed not good enough for a bunch of these films, including Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Civil War. For most of these, I understand why they were left out, but there is still some interesting stuff on display. So come along for this wild ride into the world of, hey, we shot this thing, but we didn't put it in. Also, stick around until the end if you want to win this week's Loot Crate and find out who won the one from last week. Okay, let's go. One of the things I thought Ant-Man didn't really capitalize on was more uses of the shrinky shrink technology. Sure, we got some interesting stuff, but there's one deleted scene where Michael Douglas walks into a room and then puts the Ant-Man suit on a table. Nah, that ain't it. It's Darren Cross demonstrating all sorts of different uses for PIM particles. We get a tiny stack of shipping containers, a micro-ized pile of garbage to reduce waste disposal, and a eye. I don't know why what's that? It's not shrunk. Why? But it also has a nice little nod to the Iron Man villain, the Mandarin, as this guy has a 10 rings tattoo on his neck. Because that's what I'd do if I was part of a secret organization. I'd have the very well-known symbol for that group on a very visible part of my body. Maybe even just on the front of my head. That's what I'd do. Hey, do you remember that bit in the Avengers when Bruce Banner talks about how he got to such a low point that he decided to end it all?
I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out.
Well, funnily enough, this is actually quite hilarious. There's a variation on that scene that we didn't see from that Hulk movie that's still technically canon, even though it's weird to see Edward Norton in the role. Now, we don't actually see him fire the gun, like he mentions later on, as the Hulk takes over before he gets a chance, but this is pretty close to what Joss Whedon wrote in The Avengers. Also, this is the same scene where people have claimed to have spotted Captain America frozen in ice. Right here. But you never know. And by you never know, I mean, even if it was him, by the time his solo movie rolled around, he was frozen inside a big Nazi plane. And by that I mean, who cares? We're not talking about any of that today. Let's move it along! Iron Man's a good one. It's a good movie. And there's a few deleted scenes I want to go through briefly. Firstly, there's an elaborate sequence where in order to involve himself in the international incident of killing a bunch of guys, but also getting away with it, he throws this party in Dubai, brings 3 women up to his room, and then bails. Christian bails. Like how Christian Bale's Batman bailed in The Dark Knight. The follow-up to that scene is when he returns. Now in the theatrical cut, it's kind of a comical moment where he's stuck in the suit and Pepper comes in and is all, hey, what's all this then? And he's like, I flew into a war zone. I killed so many guys and now this is happening. The alternative to this is she finds him all banged up and grim looking. Though I prefer the version we got, this does make a lot more sense that he'd be in all sorts of pain. Seeing as a bloody tank shot him out of midair. One more Iron Man one. Remember towards the end where Obadiah Stane is all, well, originally, there was a bit more to this, with one final moment between himself and Tony Stark. I'm glad they removed it, but it does demonstrate Stark's growth by his attempt to save him, but it also further emphasizes Stane's weird character arc, where he goes mad all of a sudden, and then he tries to kill both of them, because it's destiny or something, I don't know. But regardless, he still falls to his death in the same way. Such an idiot. Guardians of the Galaxy. There's some good stuff that didn't make it in. A couple of my favorites are a confrontation between Gamora and her sister, Blue Amy Pond, before Gamora betrays Thanos. Not a hell of a lot to it, but it does manage to flesh out the animosity between them. The second happens before Peter Quill stumbles on Rocket, Drax, and Groot in that bar fight. Drax is talking about the origins of his tattoos and how they link to the family that he lost, and then a shouting match breaks out about who's experienced more tragedy.
Hey! I'll speak of whatever I want. How's that?
You know nothing of family tragedy.
My mother had an IQ of 3 and ate her young when they showed minor flu symptoms. I think I know a little something about family tragedy.
As you can see, this didn't get very far along, special effects wise, but it does highlight what a good job actor/wrestler Dave Bautista did in this movie where he had to pretend to engage with a tree man and a Bradley Cooper raccoon that weren't really there yet because there was no, the movie magic that the computer that Hollywood uses. It's probably a real big one, I don't know. My favorite moment from Avengers Age of Ultron is this bit where Thor has a little bit of a bloody splash about. Nah, not really. I love the bit where the ending is exactly the same as the first one. Nah, look, what I really mean is the Hulkbuster fight sequence. I love it. But there actually exists an animatic that, if fully realized, would have made all this even better. A lot of the stuff we got ends up being the same, the bit where he throws the car and the punches in the face bit, but there's also a few more interesting ways that Iron Man attempts to get the upper hand. The cage he tries to put him in at the beginning is more of an electrified fence and dispenses sleeping gas. They go for a bit of an extended fly also through the city. He tries and almost succeeds to choke him out with an elevator cable, but most interestingly, he ends up actually subduing him by trapping the Hulk in some steel girders, firing a gas canister into his mouth, and then just holding his head till he falls asleep. Now I understand why they changed this. This is a definitive way to stop the Hulk, something you could just use all the time. So from every movie here on out, there'd be people on the internet going, you know, if you just wanted to beat the Hulk, you could just do the thing that they did in Age of Ultron. This isn't very realistic. Shut up. One last thing from Age of Ultron. After Vision is birthed, there's a brief fight scene between himself and Thor. It looks pretty good considering a lot of the special effects aren't that special yet, but I kind of feel like this would have only been included to give Thor something more to do in this movie. Doesn't really serve a purpose except to highlight Vision's powers, which we get a better sense of later in the movie anyways. Besides, that bit where he lifts the hammer does more for the character than, you know, any of this. There's a moment from Thor, the first Thor, that is a nice moment that's not included in the final cut. Loki turns some wine into some snakes, which is fine, I guess. But that leads into a quieter conversation between the two brothers before everything goes to shit. I liken this to what they tried to do with Anakin and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith, except, I don't know, infinitely better.
I've looked forward to this day as long as you have. You're my brother and my friend. And sometimes I'm envious. But never doubt that I love you. Thank you. Now give us a kiss. Stop it.
Thor the Dark World, though, includes a moment which I absolutely feel should have made it in. With Loki locked away for trying to enslave everyone on Earth, the wily bastard, he creates the illusion for himself that he's been deemed worthy and rules Asgard as a beloved king. It also mirrors Thor's coronation from the first movie and acts as an insight into the character's mind. You see, he's not all bad, he just wants to be loved. Like a tall, pale, greasy baby. But yeah, it's a great moment. If Marvel ever get around to re-releasing Thor the Dark World, you know, maybe they should consider putting it back in. I mean, don't re-release Thor the Dark World because... Why? Why would you? Before we talk Civil War, the Avengers. This bit that was cut out. A deleted scene, as they say. You know, it's okay, it shows how Captain America goes above and beyond to help anyone, but what some have speculated, and this has been confirmed in no way, is that this kid is actually Peter Parker. If he's 10 or 11, that could absolutely line up time-wise, and it would act as a nice bit of inspiration for his character. But also, you have to remember that this movie came out in a time when Andrew Garfield was still Spider-Man. So the people at Marvel would have had to have known that the series would fail 2 years after this movie came out, and that they'd be borrowing the rights to the character from Sony and recasting the role with Tom Holland. If so, that's amazing. Well done, Marvel. This is the best deleted scene. Let's get into Captain America Civil War. There's been a bunch of stuff that's been released, not all of which is super interesting, but like Age of Ultron, there is an animatic of a tussle, a tangle, a bit of a fisticuff between Black Widow and Captain America during the airport fight sequence. Now, I'm not going to bother describing it, but why don't we watch it together? I won't talk during it, because that might take away from it, but you're absolutely free to. Unless you're standing next to me, in which case, shut up! I'm watching this. Last one I want to get into is another sequence at the airport, which again, I'll just show you. You know what? That's probably lazy. Maybe I should comment over the top. It might enhance everyone's experience. Okay, so Black Widow's climbing up a thing. Oh, bit of green screen. Bit of movie magic wouldn't go astray here. She's looking worried. Oh, here comes a dodgy looking War Machine. He's chasing down... Holy shit, he's down! He's dead! Bucky's quick to take up the mantle of Captain America, throws the shield, hits War Machine, picked up by Falcon, passes back to Bucky. Oh my god! He's alive! I completely misread that. Whew, what a roller coaster of emotions. Okay, let's give away a loot crate. Here's last week's winner. Congratulations. If you're this person, just private message me these details on my YouTube channel and it's all yours. If you want to win this week's one, then leave a comment below, maybe on what deleted scene you would want to see restored in a Marvel movie. Or even just what's your favorite in general. But really, you can just make any comment. Just do whatever you want. I'm not your mother. Okay, so this Monday on my podcast, The Weekly Planet, we're talking the latest movie, TV show, and comic news. And then like a main topic, which is what we normally do. I don't know what it is yet. I don't know, we'll figure it out. That's linked below, along with some other videos, if that tickles your fancy. But thanks for watching this one. I appreciate it. Take care.